Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the Lyft lawsuit segment. Coming up next, we're talking about the college football playoff expansion. And Jason, what's wild is we all knew that college football playoff expansion was coming. What I don't quite understand is why they're going from 4 teams to 12. Like, whatever happened to the 4 to 8?
Or even 4 to 6 for that matter.
I mean, I get it that they were going. There clearly 6 was not going to be big enough of a squeeze. The juice was not going to be worth the squeeze to go from 4 to 6. That's
Just
why
say
I
money.
said.
Just say money grab. It's a money grab. Clearly, let's go. Sorry to cut you off, but I did.
I mean, keep going. I mean, what are some of your initial thoughts as they've decided to go from 4 to 12?
Well, I mean, I have a number on this as well, but it's clearly a money grab. Like I said, there obviously the talks and rumblings have been around of, hey, we need to get more than 4 teams in this. Should we make it 6? Give the first 2 teams a bye or whatever have you. Should we just double it, and make it 8? They skipped all that. Or should we go with the top 10, put them in the playoffs? Well, they skipped all that. Said, you know what, we're going from 4 to 12. Now, I'm going to go into some of the logistics when it comes to just how good a number 12 team is going to be for this playoff. We'll go into that. But like I was saying before, it's clearly a money grab. Now, obviously, the college football playoff already alone with just 4 teams, huge money, huge dollars for the college football playoff board organization. Not the NCAA, by the way. As I've said before, the college football playoff is not run by the NCAA, FYI. But I did find an article from sportsmedia.com, and they're projecting that with the expansion of 4 to 12, that the college football playoff board or what have you is going to net about $2 billion every year just from having 12 teams in the playoff. Now, I don't know about you, but I think any organization out there, whether it's sports, entertainment, selling rock salts on the street, I think anybody would be happy making $2 billion from what's probably going to amount to being a month of work. Hell, I'll take $2 billion for doing a month of shows for the Cal Park Bros. Give my money, Terrence. But yeah, that's clearly what it is. I don't think anybody can see it as what it is. Now, from a fan perspective, everybody that knows me, I'm a fan of Michigan football, the Wolverines. Hashtag go blue. Terrence likes Notre Dame. 2 teams that are routinely, well, 2 teams that should be in the mix of the playoffs a while, especially now with expansion to 12. So from a fan perspective, I'm happy to see this because now I don't have to rely on Michigan getting into the top 4 just to make the playoff. I'll say that, keeping it real. But it is pretty silly from a competitive standpoint. I'm going to go into that, but I'm going to let you jump back in to go from 4 to 12. What are some of your thoughts on that additionally, sir?
This has very little to do with competition, and I say that as a Notre Dame fan. I mean, Notre Dame's kind of a weird setup because they don't really have a conference anyway. I mean, clearly they're going to be one of those at-large teams.
Didn't they join a conference in football, though? Or was that basketball?
I mean, they've been a part of a conference in basketball for some time.
Okay,
Just
so
a
basketball.
matter of,
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
My apologies.
But and we should probably talk a little bit about like how basically they're going to have the 6 major conferences and then the 6 at-large bids, if you will. But
go for it.
But to me, it makes little difference. Like Notre Dame was going to be in the top 10 no matter what. Notre Dame, because of who Notre Dame happens to be historically, was going to be on the cusp of being in the top 10 to 12 teams anyway. So to me, it doesn't change anything. It just makes those more middling teams, those hypothetical scenarios we talked about where a team could go 8-4 and possibly win the championship. I mean, it's unlikely, but you get to feel good and say, "Hey, I was at least in the running." If that helps, it helps you. but from my perspective as a Notre Dame fan, it doesn't do anything for me. Like Jason said, it's already a land grab, and you're just elongating the postseason. Like the endeavor to continually expand this damn thing out, it's like adding another blade to the damn Mach to damn Mach 5 blades. Like it's ridiculous. Alabama is still going to be Alabama. You still have to go through the best of the best. And I'm not even saying it or some other SEC equivalent.
You know, there's one other aspect out there thought about, but I'll hold off on that for a second. But like I mentioned before, personally, and I've said this before, that even they announced the whole 12. I even said that having 8 teams in the playoffs might be a little too much because the football regular season, depending on what conference you're in, may range between 11, 12, 13 games. And depending on the conference, it may include your conference championship game. So pretty much, we always look at the teams that lose 0 games or 1 game as like the elite of the elite, and they definitely deserve to be or have a shot to play for a national championship. Typically, it's only 4 teams, maybe 5, maybe 6. Once you start getting to 7 and 8, you start getting in the weeds of, okay, does this team really deserve to win a championship or play for a championship? Now you have 7, 8, you have 9, you have 10, you have 11, you have 12. And I was going back over the last few years looking at the final rankings for the college football playoff. And every time, every year, there's always been a team with 3 or 4 losses on their record, at least 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3. And again, like you just said, maybe a long shot that they win the national championship, but it's still a possibility. Because I believe in this format, a team would only have to win 3 games, I think, to win the championship, which is less than 6 or 7 compared to the NCAA tournament in basketball. So yeah, again, going back as many years as you want, go back to the top 12 teams. There's always some team in there with 3 or 4 losses. In the format of college football, do we really want to see a 3 or 4 loss team or more than that have a right to play for the national championship? Now I know everybody's no. Go ahead, answer that.
I'm just gonna say, listen, if somehow, to me, it's no different than going 10-2 and ending the year as a second-rate squad. It's you still weren't the best team, but you ended up where you ended up, and the only way that team could end up there anyway, they'd actually have to beat 2 squads. They'd have to beat 2 teams. And you're still going to get mollywopped in the championship game.
Maybe. We don't know. Okay, so also again, competitively, also I've seen people written and fans and otherwise say that this also waters down now the regular season compared to what we have as of right now. Because we already, like I just said, we already know that once a team, in general, a team loses its second game, they're probably going to put themselves out of playing for the national championship unless there's somebody else above you that also has 2 losses. For example, in 2019, the regular season year, there was an undefeated team at the top, another undefeated team behind them, a 1-loss team, and then there was a 2-loss team and a bunch of 2-loss teams behind them. So you'd have to get lucky a way to have a bunch of 2-loss teams to have a shot to get in there. Now you don't even need that. You can mess around, like say, have 3 or 4 losses and get lucky to be the 12th team, and now I'm in the playoff. Now I have a shot. And again, like I said, should that really be the case? Again, I know people might say it's only 4 losses. Well, out of 13 games, out of 12 games, compared to somebody who played the same amount of games and lost nothing.
But it also depends on who I lost those 3 or 4 games to.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Because no, it doesn't. Actually, it doesn't.
Jason,
no,
let me finish. Clearly, it does matter because that's how other 2 and 3 loss teams in the SEC have been able to leapfrog other teams in the past.
Now, keep in mind, there's never been a 3-team. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. There's never been a 3-loss team playing for the national championship in the current format. So, and here's the thing. Okay, so I lost. Okay, so let's say this. I'm a team that lost 3 games or 4, whatever, and all those losses, or 3 of them, were to powerhouse teams. Okay, yeah, those are losses that can be forgiven. What it also tell me is that when it comes to the winning the big game against big teams, you can't do it because you lost 3 times to them. So again, looking at from that perspective, you shouldn't be playing for the national championship because you already proven you can't beat these teams that matter. So now the other thing I'll say about this, and obviously the college football playoff committee has nothing to do with this. Well, they do in a way because it's based off of conference leaders and school leaders. So again, you're spanning this from 4 to 12. Now teams are going to have to play 3 or 4 games in this playoff. Are they still going to have the huge long regular season on top of that? Now they're playing a 13-game regular season in a conference championship and 3 or 4 games in the tournament. So now they're playing the same amount of games as the NFL season, basically. So what I'm going into is there going to be any type of coordination between the college football playoff committee and NCAA conference leaders to say, hey, now they're going to have this format. Are we going to, lessen our regular season games and championship games to make sure these kids aren't, again, these are college athletes, not NFL. So hopefully you see what I'm getting at there. I just kind of wonder that. I'm not saying there should or shouldn't be, but I kind of wonder if there's going to be that coordination because technically they don't have to be. Because even though the college football playoff committee is, the board is run by, again, conference leaders and school leaders and stuff like that, 2 separate entities. The NCAA has no control over the college football playoff, so they don't have to have any coordination at all. They could just basically say, screw you, the NCAA, you figure it out on your own. We don't have to work with you. And clearly they didn't, hence why they are doing this 12-game thing without any, from what I know or can tell, any consideration of that schedule. So your thoughts on anything I just said when it comes to those 3 competitive aspects that I mentioned?
I don't think listen, all this is just placating these middle teams that are not going to go undefeated. Because clearly not everyone's going to go undefeated. You're going to have more 2 or 3 lost teams. And inevitably, you're going to have the 13th team. Oh my God, we should have been number 12. You should have been number 12. We should have been number 12. We only got our asses kicked by Roast Beef State by 1 extra point than the team number 12. You're not really changing it. You're still having people griping because they're on the outside looking in. They can't get in the club.
Well, and that brings up another point that I didn't think about, the slippery slope. Now, maybe with football, there's some limit to that because, again, you're still adding games to the schedule of a rough sport. But now you've already gone way down the slope. You didn't, like I said, you didn't go to 6, you didn't go to 8, didn't go to 10, went from 4 to 12. And I agree with you completely. If the 13th team or whoever the last team out is going to be like, well, wait a minute. And I almost feel like you're going to get more scrutiny when it comes to teams that lost 4 games, 3 or 4 games. Now, again, now we fight over teams that lost 3 or 4 games. So I agree with you. So I do kind of wonder how many years after this 2026 is it going to be, well, maybe we should start adding 16, making a nice even number to have 8 teams on each side, like the NBA playoffs, like the hockey playoffs. You feel me on that, dog? We'll have a Sweet 16 of just actual 16 teams. So I do think it's a matter of time before you get 16. It's a matter of time. Because guess what? I know in Division II, I don't know about Division III, but in Division II football, and also, rather I should say FCS football, guess what they had to decide their champion? A 16-team tournament. Now, obviously, they play less regular season games than FBS. So, yeah, I think it's a matter of time before it goes to a 16-team playoff for major FBS football in college. So,
I think no matter whatever the configuration is, someone is going to be miserable, and clearly we as a community are invested into it. Also, gambling.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the guys in Vegas love this. They love it. I mean, I just mentioned the CFP is going to make $2 billion a year. How much extra money is Vegas going to make now? Probably more than that $2 billion.
Yeah,
guarantee it.
Yes, sir. All right, that concludes our segment on the college football playoff expansion. And with that said, we'll wrap up the show.